It's time for our next breakout here. Now this is called The Perfect Storm, protecting data in the AECO industry amid cyber threats and AI risks. To present this and hopefully not scare the life out of us because it looks like it's scaring me already, CEO of Cortida, one of the leaders in cybersecurity, Andy Compton. Coming up, Andy, good to see you. Thank you. Sir, good to see you.
Thanks very much.
It's all yours.
Thank you. Just get out of those lights. Hey, good afternoon. Thank you, and thank you for listening. Hopefully, you're all here at the end of the session as well. So, absolutely, I'm going to be talking about protecting data from current and emerging threats that incorporates both cyber and AI. I'm also going to spend quite a bit of time talking about the background to these risks and these threats, because I think it's useful if I can give you some context about the likelihood of an attack and perhaps how much effort and focus is going into these attacks from organized criminals and criminality, then I think it will become more meaningful for you. So I'm going to spend a fair amount of time looking over that. We'll talk about current emerging threats, things that are likely to be of interest to your business and your organizations. And time permitting, I'm going to talk about the way that we can ready our business for it. So we'll talk about some of the standards that organizations can align with, and perhaps there's some mappings and there'll be some giveaways on our stand out the side that will help you build on this after the event. So let's get straight on with this. Why me and why not somebody else? Well, I've spent probably 15 years in the industry building, in the AECO industry, building networks, going back probably 20 years. Those that are being attacked at the moment probably weren't the ones that I built, by the way, and if they are, it's probably because they're 20 years old, so they shouldn't really still be in place. But I'm an active information and cyber security consultant, and I run Cortida, as an international cybersecurity consulting company. We focus on governance, risk and compliance, aligning security standards with organizations, things like ISO 27001, Cyber Essentials. We're also a certifying body. And at the more technical level, we're also ethical hackers or penetration testers, to use a different term. So we also spend a great deal of time educating boards and leaders within organizations, so the message can propagate down and across the organization. So that's me, and I think that's why I'm here. Let's move on. So how did we arrive in this risky digital landscape? Well, I'm going to give you 4 themes that I'm hoping that if we'll just accept will be true for now, and I hope that I'll build on these throughout the session. So data has become a highly valuable commodity. This is true. It has become more valuable than oil, and it has become more valuable than gold, although with current tariffs, the gold prices are going up. What's true is that people are trading and buying and selling data in incredible numbers because they can do so much with it. You can do good with data. You can create new medicines and new vaccines by shaping data and analyzing data, but of course you can do bad with it as well. So, and we'll be plenty of slides on that as well. So everything we have and know is increasingly connected to everything and everyone. Whether this is the Fitbit on our watch, it's our refrigerator, whether it's our laptop or our computer. Everything is increasingly connected. And we spend about 6.5 to 7 hours a day on average connected nowadays to those devices. I think by 2028 we'll have an average of 8 connected devices per human on Earth. So that shows you that level of connectivity. Our reliance on systems and data hasn't kept pace with our ability to protect them. And finally, cyber attackers, because of those, target digital systems to access the data and for it to use and support their criminal activities. So the evidence is out there that they are doing that, and they're doing it with increasing success. And just like our businesses, cyber attackers, where there's a great deal of criminality, invest in KPIs and refining their processes. all of the time. And we see that these are just bubbles that show that not every attack, but the trend for attacks is getting bigger and bigger in terms of data loss. So let's put this one up. This is the National Public Data Record, which was an attack in 2024, where 2.7 billion records of data were lost. Put that into context for you. 8 billion humans on Earth. That means that a record was lost for a third of the global population, just in one record. And that's not, last year. That's not one on its own or isolated. Of course, we saw Ticketmaster in the UK lost 560 million, and we saw Dell lose 49 million records in there. But we talked about this perfect storm. Let's just explore that a little bit further. So data is everywhere and shared continually. One of the four concepts that I'd asked you to consider there. There is a lack of understanding about risk because, us as an industry haven't always been most successful at communicating the risks that are out there. And in some organizations, perhaps they haven't been great at, understanding, the risks because sometimes the languages, there's a bit of a disconnect with them. There is a global shortage of about 3 million cyber professionals across the world. So if you know young people that are interested in this, you should encourage them because it helps us grow the defenses that we're going to be relying upon in the future. Fast-paced evolution of cybercrime. So this is now, cybercrime is around 55% of it, I think, we'll have a slide on this, is actually strictly organized by criminality who, as I said earlier, they have meetings, they have KPIs, they have customer satisfaction surveys, they do all of the things that businesses now do to refine and improve their methods of attack. Inadequate budgets, this goes without saying, poor security thinking, and this one down here, I'm just going to pause on this. It says it won't happen to us. I was hearing this in these industries 15 years ago, and I still hear it today. Commonly. Well, I don't have anything of value to share. Who would want to do this? I'm only an architect. I'm only a civil engineer. I'm only a structural engineer. We don't really have anything of data, that's of significance to value. I think what I'd like to do is, as we go through these, what you'll possibly realize is they don't care what you've got. What you have is data, and organized criminality will approach this data in whatever way they can to get it. So they don't care where it is or who it's from. So the net result of these attacks and these, this perfect storm items is that there's an increasing volume of cyber attacks and an increasing likelihood of them happening. And I can stand here today and tell you that we, on a weekly basis, are involved in cyber attacks within the AECO industry. So it's no longer about whether or not you've been unlucky or whether or not you have anything to that would be worth stealing or exposing or corrupting. The reality is it's here and it is happening. So how big a problem is this and what's the motivation for this? Well, we know it's financially motivated heavily. If we count the cost of cybercrime, we are looking currently at that being worth $13.8 trillion by 2028. Put that into perspective, that's twice the size of the German economy, the GDPR of Germany. So that would make cybercrime, if it was a country, the third largest country and economy in the world. It's very, very significant and it's very organized. Where do attacks come from? Well, 70% come from outside the business and they're maliciously motivated, and 30% come from inside. And I just want to dispel, or maybe perhaps show some caution here. The 30% isn't necessarily 30%, people who are deliberately trying to damage their employers. This 30% incorporates accidental behaviors, CCing or BCCing, CCing things that should be BCC'd, or perhaps not protecting something and something accidentally being exposed as well. But there are some maliciously motivated internal actors, but added to the accidental and well-meaning actors that perhaps don't have the right process and policies in place to stop them, then that's where we end up on. So that's the split. And as I mentioned earlier, this organised crime piece is 55%. The rest of it comes from a number of other vectors. So the motivation, there is a range of motivations down on the right-hand side. Let me just stand back a little bit for you there. Financial gain obviously sits all the way up here in the 83, 84, 85% cause. Political, I suspect that the political landscape is going to change. It's quite low at the moment, but I think that state-sponsored attacks are likely to be on the rise over the next few months and years, as there's perhaps a little bit of scrabbling to recoup costs and prop up economies. But largely, there are also these other areas here. So hacktivism, what do we have? I talked about, do you know what you have and what value it is? Are you working on sensitive assets, sensitive buildings within your organization? Would the press want to know about those, what the intended purpose of an organization is? So would an activist group be interested in understanding where they are? So I always encourage people, when they think about who might be attacking you, is to think about the data that you've got and how that data could be used badly and by who, because that will then help you map out who is likely to be attacking you. Revenge, usually this comes in the internal attacker one. Espionage, thrill-seeking, I did it because I could. I wanted to get some notoriety because I wanted to join a hacking organization. Social recognition, disruption. But clearly the message here is it's very heavily financially motivated. So the industry often gets accused of scaremongering, and putting huge numbers out there and huge values out there. So I thought that I would just moderate this by bringing the gov.uk cybersecurity breaches survey figures to the room, because this isn't us as an interested party that are presenting this. These are the slides that come. Sorry, these are the numbers that come from government surveys, of which they say 50% of all businesses in 2024 reported some form of cyber attack or breach. If we further dissect that 50% and we break that down into medium and large organizations, then we see 70% of medium size and 74% of large size organizations. It's probably too many people here for me to just throw this question out. So usually I would ask this, does anybody know what this 51 seconds relates to? This is the breakout time observed, or the fastest one from CrowdStrike in one of their recent reports. This is the time, once somebody is inside an organization, has successfully breached it, that it takes to start moving across the organization laterally or vertically to obtain other information, to explore other areas that they can get to, or to other data that they can get to. So quite significant. This is a long way away from it. 197 days. Any idea what that is? Again, no need to shout it out. It's the time that it takes, on average, to discover the event. Now, when we see a ransomware, we think automatically, because the screen comes up, it goes red, we get a message, we can't get access to our files anymore, but this is what's happened. It's a good chance that somebody has been in there 197 days or so. I think there was a Kellogg's breach that was reported yesterday. That happened on the 7th of December. It became a little bit more public knowledge yesterday, and it was reported on the 27th of February. So, there are lags involved in here, because quite often what they're doing is they're taking this information and they're looking at ways that they can monetize it. They're looking at ways in which, if you say, I'm not paying your ransom, that they can then leverage the data that they already have. We've deleted your backups, as an example. We've already got your customer database. We've already got our finger on the hovering over the send to all of your customers, telling them that you've lost their data. So we see this. So challenges we're seeing in the AECO industry. Ransomware attacks, very common now. Not occasional, very common. We're involved in these. Secondary attacks, stealing the databases before. Anybody knows that they've been attacked and then using them against them. Impersonation attacks, well, we see impersonation attacks in the form of deepfakes, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about in a moment. and loss of data in the cloud. This is quite often about configuration, and it's relevant within the AECO industry because you're collaborating in the cloud a lot. And what's happening is that you're being provisioned often with very secure external collaboration environments that, the vendor that supplies them have, done all the right hardening of the environment, all the right hardening of the outside, and then they give you configurable options that you might not understand, you might not be trained in, and then, of course, what happens is we have the option then of undoing all that good security practice on the outside and allowing access into the network by exposing data and exposing buckets. So this is quite common, the misconfiguration of systems. Operational technology attacks, this is attacking things like BMS systems now. In fact, on the operational technology front, we're seeing attacks of about 6 a year on people that have got operational tech, exploited vulnerabilities, accidental insiders, and the rise of AI. So let's have a quick talk about these, because I do have to whip through these quite quickly. So within 4 years, 25% attacks were likely to be generated by AI tooling. So we need to be very mindful of this. That's going to come in the form of improved phishing. So they're harder to spot and harder to detect. Realistic impersonations, we talked about deepfakes, whether that's video or audio, or whether or not it's actually just images, because images are coming up as well. 400% growth in the use of images, I think. Reduced discovery, so we're now seeing that the AI-driven attacks have the ability to hide themselves and replicate the network so that they're not discovered in the same way that, that you would have expected them to be. And self-learning malware, I call it self-driving. So I've gone down this road, I'm in the business, I've gone, looked to see whether or not I can get down there, but I can't, so I'm now going to reverse and I'm going down another line of inquiry until I find something that's successful. And of course, new ways of working, and the industry has always been very quick at adopting new ways of working. Just going to pause on the rise of deepfakes quickly now. So convincing audio and video fakes used to commit fraud, distribute misinformation or disinformation. This has become so cheap. The barriers to entry for doing this type of crime or this type of attack have been becoming smaller. So it's now available. There's double the amount of software available and tools. It's become cheap, often from $99. It's easy to use. It's almost Fisher Price, click and play, 3 buttons, learn how to do this. And the rewards, of course, are very high. What's the approach to creating realistic deepfakes? Find a video, record a message, apply the audio, sync the lips, launch it, and extort an organization. I've gone through that really quick because on this next slide I'm going to show you one. We set an internal challenge within the organization. We allowed somebody 90 minutes and £20 to see what they could do with that money. So this is what we did. We found a video of Alan Stone, who I'm sure you all know and love, on YouTube for a video that he'd recorded. We extracted the video out of the general conversation that was out there. I recorded a new audio track that said, quick, pay us some money. And then we lip-synced everything and we converted my voice into Alan's voice using the technology that was available to us at a cost of £11. And to build some urgency into the environment. We said that Alan was at the airport, he was flying to Oslo, and we were going to overlay that with sounds of airports and airport waiting rooms and things like that in the background, just to create, because these are being used now, right? So I'm going to play this. Hopefully the audio will come through. It's only a very short trip, but you'll recognize the use of pressure, which is one of the most common ways of identifying, or the easiest ways to identify if something is going wrong, or perhaps something isn't quite what it seems to be. So let's see what happened with that process there.
I'm really sorry to dump and run. Something happened in Oslo and I need to be there today. I'm at the airport, but I said we'd make a payment this morning so a trainer doesn't walk off site. I'll ping you an email, but can you please make the payment immediately? Otherwise, we'll have to stop work on a project.
Okay, so it is easy, it is cheap, it is used, and there is a 400% increase of these types of attacks being used within the industry and then being followed up with something called vishing, which is where somebody phones and says, Alan's on a plane now. He really needs this. He wanted me to phone and make sure that you're doing it. So again, introducing pressure and anxiety into the attack. So, the barriers to entry for conducting cybercrime have really fallen because the rewards are coming up. And it's AI, of course, that's driving this. Right, I've got 5 minutes, so I'm going to go through just a couple of slides about evolving ones and one to watch. Voice phishing, you get an email, it's clearly spam, or it's clearly phishing, and somebody's trying to get you to do something, now followed by that increasing trend for somebody to phone up and convince you to do it. IoT sensors, so the ability to poison IoT devices is one that we're watching, really. So what would that happen in a building operations environment? Can I get onto the network? Can I get onto a sensor? Can I change the integrity of the data? Can I tell it that the building's on fire? And if I can tell it that the building's on fire, can that release the magnetic locks on the doors so that an attacker can walk in through a physical building? So these are the types of ways that we're talking and thinking about poisoning of data in the future. We'll got some more on that later. Quantum computing, very complex area, new ways of computing coming, which is going to make breaking encryption much easier and much quicker. So we don't have to worry about this today, but we need to be aware that in 4 or 5 years' time, anything that we have encrypted, that we are relied upon, will be able to reverse engineer that. So it's how safe we keep those. And then I mentioned about IoT, and I mentioned about the operational technologies that are there. And I just want to pull out 3 kind of areas, really, where tech is being used and AI is being used, and more advanced processes in these areas here, because these are potentially subject to subversion. What's the impact of a robotic bricklayer being compromised and the coordinates of where it's going to be laid being moved from its start position here to its start position here? So in a blink of an eye, we've now got a wall built in the wrong place. What's the possibility of us changing the integrity of a recipe in a 3D printing system that's printing a wall or printing a house as an emerging capability where we change the consistency of the cement ingredient? That might mean that we have less reliable walls, less stable walls, structurally challenged, and the integrity of those buildings or structures could be impacted. And I watch with interest, really, the robotic inspection technology. If any of you have seen these are robotic dogs walking around sites doing inspections. But of course, they're operated by web-enabled systems. So can we get insights into secure areas or secure facilities by logging in and actually monitoring what our robotic inspection devices are making on sites, on construction sites, or even within energy? I mean, in some areas outside of here, we're seeing that they're being used to go and stand up against heat furnaces to see whether or not or engineering pieces to see whether or not the energies can be sensed and whether or not they're overheating. So, but all of these can be, of course, subverted if we can get to them. So the evolving threats are really going to be based around how quickly the industry embraces these technologies and an ability to protect them by not baking in security after the event when somebody's been creative and broken into them. It's about having some form of framework that gives you the ability to protect them and predict the security requirements in advance. And this is the job of security standards. Things like ISO 27001, or the NIST equivalent, or perhaps Cyber Essentials or Cyber Essentials Plus, if you have any of, if you're familiar with those. But what security standards do is they establish that you have a secure baseline of services within your security within your organization. They help you maintain it. They help you manage supply chain risks and that they may be introducing. Of course, they also help you deal with the change in the changing technologies. So you would be evaluating AI against a standard or a process that comes in through this standard. And of course, in the unfortunate event that you have to navigate an incident, they should dictate and manage that to help you limit the impact of the incident, help you recover more quickly, and be to reduce your overarching impact which will have a 3-year tail. 66% of impact happens in year 1, and then the remaining percentage happens in year 2 and 3, where you have the fines start to kick in, the litigation starts to kick in, the loss of customers, the attrition of customers. So there is a very strong case for security standards. That's something that we can help you with, and I'm just going to show you one quick slide there that shows there is a standard in the security area for organizations of different sizes, whether you are big or small, whether you've got a small number of employees or not. There are some really good standards out here. Even 19650 has a part 5 to it, which talks about the security of the model and the concepts that you have to have there. So please come and see us on our stand, because what we have on the stand for you is we have a maturity guide printed out that will talk you through what is involved in the development and the implementation of security standards within your organization. This is something we're very experienced at, and we'd love to help you sort of understand these really and what this might mean for your business and how you might implement them. And I think I'm out of time on my counter down here, so perhaps we can just leave the slide up. People can read that.
Anyway,
absolutely.
So, anyway, Andy, can we have a round of applause for Andy? Andy Compton. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you very much.
Great job. Listen, just a quick one because we will have a panel and we'll talk more cybersecurity in just a second.
Yep.
And we can cover anything that you didn't. What's the first thing that we should do when we go back to the office? What's the first thing that we should do after we've seen you, apart from call you, Phil?
Yeah. Know what data you've got. I get asked this question all the time.
Sure.
People don't know what data they've got, where it is, why it's important, who would want it, how it's protected, who's responsible for it. If we deal with these questions internally within the organization, then we can decide what's appropriate security. Because it's not just about wrapping layers and layers and layers of security. It's got to be appropriate, right?
Okay.
And knowing your risk, which you'll know from the data, is what you should do. So understand the data.
Okay, we will talk more in just a second. Thank you very much. Andy
Thanks
Compton,
very much.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.